Now this is something I've received many requests on. How the heck do you replace the factory Bose unit, in this case in a Nissan? There are a lot of online users that state that they swapped out the radio and they have popping noises, low volume, they don't know what's going on, maybe they have a bad ground, and they're just left scratching their head. So I've decided to just go ahead and upload a video here showing how to remove your old radio, get the right components, reinstall a brand new aftermarket radio, and you'll be in good shape. So that being said, let's go ahead and let's begin. Now before you begin, just make sure you disconnect the negative terminal and the battery. So the first step is we need to remove this upper piece on the console right above the Hvac controls. And to do that, I'll be using these plastic stereo removal tools. They're great to have. You can pick them up at your local auto parts supplier. But you have a bunch of clips that holds this section together. So just insert the plastic tool. As you can see, I got the process going off camera. But just insert the tool and just lightly pry up, like so. So now these bottom clips are free and clear. And now I'll use this thicker tool, insert it here, right above the vent. And let's take a look, and that's it. Now real quick, I just want to point something out. As you can tell, this part of the dashboard is nice and smooth or level, and this side of the dashboard is raised slightly, as you can tell. And the reason behind that, many years ago when the radio on this vehicle started to go, I did not have one of these plastic removal tools handy, and I decided to use a flathead screwdriver, and this is the result. It slightly deformed the dashboard, so I really highly recommend using these guys, because if you use a flathead screwdriver, this could be the end result. And for many years I'm always pushing down on this part, and it just doesn't stay. I've never tried using tape over a number of days just to see if it will get back in place, but get yourself one of these tools because it will save your dash from looking like that. So after that quick little story, let me show you what it looks like back here. And as you can see, you have a bunch of electrical connections that we need to remove. And let me just come in for a zoom so you can see this. So you have these tabs, as you can see right here. Just press down and pull on the harness. Don't yank on the wires, just pull it on the harness. And there you go. And for this middle guy, on the right hand side, you have a little tab, just squeeze it in. And that's it. Again, squeeze it from the connector, the harness connector. Don't squeeze it from the wiring. And for this last one, right on top, you can't see it from this view, but right on top, very similar to this, there's a little prong you push down on. And that's it. So next step, what I'm going to do is shift. Actually, in fact, before we do that, we need to loosen up this console right here. So again, just get your trusty tool here, and you have a clip right there, another clip over here. Gently pull up. And now we need to just put this into a lower gear. Okay. Go ahead, place the plastic console around the gear shifter. And then you have a connection right here for the cigarette lighter. So just undo that, which is a tab on the bottom. Okay, now we have a screw. Let me see if I can show you where this is. This guy right here we need to remove. Now to do that, the best thing is to use a magnetic screwdriver, if you have one. So just feel for it. It's a little hard to see. This again is a Phillips. And there you go. And once you remove that screw, go ahead and remove the ashtray here. We'll place that to the side as well. And then just push in and pull toward the left. There's a clip on the right side. It's a very strong clip though. And there you go. And then again we have a connection. Let me just zoom out here a little bit. You have a connection right here. The tab is on the left. Just squeeze that in. This is for the, there's a very small light bulb in here. And there we go. And then I'm going to come back up here toward the top, and we have these two bolts right here. This happens to be a 10 millimeter. What I'm going to do is just loosen them up with, excuse me, this is an 8 millimeter. These are 8 millimeter bolts. Just loosen them up. Just loosen them up with a ratchet and socket, and then use a Phillips here to remove the screws. Okie doke. And then if we zoom out toward the bottom, let me also unlatch this so you guys can see this. On the bottom here, you have one screw here and another one right here. And you could just feel for the bolt. And now this entire section is free and clear. And of course we have a bunch of connections back here. Now just so you guys can see this a little bit easier, right here we have a Phillips screw, and there's also another one. There it is, right here. So I'm going to remove those two Phillips screws and remove the HVAC controls. And there's also one other Phillips right behind this white connector. Okay, now you can remove this connector and this hose. You can really do it any step that you like. If you rather remove this hose first and this connector, that's fine too. And on the opposite side of this connector you have a tab. It can be a little difficult to grab, but just remove it from the harness. And then what you're going to do is just gently remove the HVAC control and just place it to the side for now. And then of course you have a couple of connections in the back here. This guy right here, I know it's a little difficult to see. I can't really twist it too much. But toward the back right here, just squeeze the right side and this comes right out. There we go, right here. Alright, and then for these top connectors, you can always use a flathead screwdriver to help you press in the tabs here, because they can be difficult to fit your fingers in there. So, but there you go. And that's it. So now your radio is free and clear. So now we have the radio here on the bench, and we need to remove it from its mount. Now it's held on by 4 on this side, 4 Phillips size screws, and there's another 4 on the opposite side. Now these screws are extremely tight. You need a very good drill bit. So what I'll be using in this case, you could try by hand, but you may strip them. So get yourself, in this case I'll be using a cordless drill, and I happen to have one of these impact sets, and I use these to remove rotors. Hondas are just notoriously known to use Phillips size screws on their rotors, and they rust out and they're very difficult to get off unless you have this tool. This tool is really a lifesaver, and the bit included with this tool is fantastic. I just know it's going to grip these guys very well. So what I'm going to do is attach this bit to this drill right here, this guy, and then I just know that we'll be successful. Now, If you don't happen to have a good drill bit, excuse me, a good Phillips size bit, or for some reason if you strip these guys out, what you can do is you have to get yourself something like a Dremel and score it, just make a straight line so you can use a flathead bit and remove it. That will work. That, or you can try drilling it out, but do yourself a favor, try to find the best possible bit, because I'm telling you, these guys are really, really tight. So just be careful when you do this. Press down with a lot of force, and you should be okay. So let's give it a shot. I'm just going to turn it around here so you guys can see this, and I'll press hard, press down hard, and just give it a whirl. And there you go. You do have to press down hard, and like I said, make sure it's a very good drill bit. Just finished removing those 8 screws. We happen to have 2 Phillips size screws right here, and another 2 on the opposite side, and then this face will come right off of the mount here. Okay, so here's the front face. We'll place it to the side, and then we have the radio here, which slides right out. Now this is where the fun begins. This is getting all of the wiring and setting everything up for solder. Now I do recommend on soldering your connections. It's really the best thing you can do. Now I will solder off camera because there are plenty of videos out there showing how to solder. But real quick, I know this does look a little bit confusing. Let's just go over what we have. It's really quite simple. What this is the harness connector to the aftermarket radio. In this case I have a Sony. So the Sony includes this harness connector, and this connector plugs into the radio. So if you buy a Sony, a Panasonic, Alpine, doesn't matter, they all include a harness connection. That's all that this is. Then we come to vehicle specific. Now that happens to be these 2 harness connectors. Now these plug in directly to the vehicle, and when we reinstall everything, you'll see exactly what I mean. But in this case on my Maxima, I have 2 wire harnesses, and these will plug into those wire harnesses. And that's all that these guys are. That's it. Now, the one place where you can go, I highly recommend, I have 0 affiliation with them, but check out crutchfield.com. You can purchase everything from them, and very often they'll include freebies. In other words, if you buy a radio from them, they'll give you factory plugs for free, they'll give you instructions for free. Just check them out. They make the job very, very easy. Plus, if you have any questions, their customer service is very, very good. But that's all that these guys are. So these are specifically made for my vehicle. That's all this is. Now this is the one thing that you guys really, really need, and this is a converter. Now what happens with the Bose system is that it sends a very, very low signal to each speaker, and each speaker has an amplifier. And what that obviously does is it amplifies the signal, and you get a very nice sound. Now what would happen is if you did not use this converter, let's just say you go ahead and you install your new radio, you plug in your harness connectors, everything is soldered correctly. 2 things could happen. Number 1, if you don't use this adapter, what would happen is the volume level would be very, very low. So in other words, you can really crank up the radio and you will barely hear anything. The other thing that will most definitely happen is you will hear a popping noise. So in other words, if you change radio stations, if you change source from tuner to CD to auxiliary to Bluetooth to Pandora, it doesn't matter. Whenever you change the source, radio station, anything like that, you would hear a popping sound. And that's why you need one of these guys. This takes care of that problem. So the way that this all works is we're going to solder on this, let me just show you, on this converter here you have output and input, okay? So input would be coming from the aftermarket radio, and then output goes to the radio, these harnesses. And again, I know it's a little confusing, but once I solder everything off camera, we'll go back in the car and I'll show you what everything looks like. But that's essentially what you're going to do. So again, this is the wire harness from your new radio. This is the wire harness made specifically for your vehicle. And then you need this converter. And that's it. Now again, if you do purchase everything from Crutchfield, they'll give you a big break on this. 15 bucks, I believe they charge. If you buy it without purchasing everything, then I believe it's $30 or so. So it does make a difference if you just get everything from Crutchfield. Make it easy, and that's it. So I'm going to solder everything here. We'll come back in the car, and we'll continue with the installation. Of course, once you wrap up your soldering, this is what the finished product will look like. Again, you don't have to be an electrical engineer when you do this. All that you're doing is you're matching the coloring of the wires. You solder them. This is heat shrink tubing, this stuff. So in other words, it's a rubber component. Once you finish your soldering, you place this rubber product over your solder joint. You take a match or a lighter, and it melts and makes a nice covering for your solder joint. So again, you just match up the colors, you solder them, and that's it. So yellow to yellow, red to red, and you just go through every color and match. Everything matches. You will have a couple that you're just not going to use. For example, this guy, this is orange with a white stripe. So what I did in this case, I clipped the end and I put a little bit of heat shrink tubing so it won't make any shorts anywhere. So just to give you a quick rundown what this is going to look like as I bun this up. So this guy will go into here. Okay. Then I have this guy. So I have two harness connectors, and most likely you will also if you have a Bose unit, like so. And then you have a ground coming from this guy. This is the harness for your aftermarket radio, and that's this guy. Okay, make sure you connect this to a metal point. So I have a metal point right here, as you can see, right behind this. This is really plastic, but right behind this, there's a metal connection point. And then, if you look at the sides, this is metal, that's metal, back there is all metal. So this is going to be a very good grounding point. In my case, so this is my plan. I will insert this guy right here, and once I button everything back up, this will make a very, very good ground. So we're in good shape. Just make sure all of your wiring is ready to go, and again, make sure this component, you need this component if you have a Bose unit. There are other companies. Metra makes one of these guys. I think the same company even has a different part number. That may be a little bit easier to install, but you need this kind of component, because if you don't, when you install everything, you'll get a popping noise. It will drive you crazy. So just make sure you have this ready to go. Now let's talk about this. This happens to be the microphone for the Bluetooth, and what I've decided to do is run the wire. This is where the visor would be, right here. I just unbolted the visor. It's held on by two screws. I ran the microphone wire through the opening, down the A-pillar. Right here you have that plastic cover, and it's held on by two clips. Let me just show you real quick. And as you can see, there's a clip right there and another clip right there. So you just pull hard and the plastic cover for the A-pillar is removed. And I just ran the wire down the A-pillar and then through the dash, and toward the bottom I shot across and came through this opening back here. And here's the end of it that will plug into the rear of the radio right here. So this is just a nice location, because then the microphone will always be right here, very close to my face. Now if you happen to have side airbags, I don't recommend on doing this, because what you can set off is the airbag light, and then you have another problem. So if you do have a side current airbag here, just leave this alone. The other option you can do is you can place the mic right about, let me just lower the steering wheel here. I was underneath fishing the wire through. But what you can do is place the wire right here, the microphone, and they do have a clip, so you can clip it onto many different options or surface areas, and you can have the mic right here. I did this option on a Subaru. If you search under my channel, you'll see the installation on Subaru, which was a 2010 Impreza, and it did have side airbags, and I just did not want to chance anything with the side airbag, so I mounted the mic right here, and it works perfectly fine. On highway speeds, you can hear some wind noise, so this is really the best location, is through the A-pillar, and just stick the mic right here. Once I button everything up, I'll show you exactly what it looks like, but at least this gives you an idea of how to hook everything up, lead it right to the rear of the radio, and you'll be in good shape. What I'm going to do real quick is just make sure everything works before I button everything up. And if you are doing this on a Nissan, Nissans have this this funky two-prong antenna type of, and you need an adapter for this to work. Again, go to crutchfield.com. They'll include everything. It just makes the job very, very easy. So I will plug. This is the antenna. Let me get the radio here. Make sure we don't scratch anything up. So this again goes to the rear of the radio. Just plugs right in. Like so. And we can actually hear it turning on. Let me grab the antenna. It's a little hard with the camera here. This plugs in the back. Like so. The Bluetooth I'll do in a second. I just want to make sure this works. So let's turn the key. See what we have. Okay. We'll go to source. Tuner. Let's see.
Nexium, the purple pill, is available.
So everything works. Let me just get to a station here. So as you can tell, if we change the source, there's no popping noise, so everything works correctly. So we're in good shape. So what I'm going to do is just finish buttoning everything up, put everything back into the dashboard, get everything nice and straight, and we'll be in good shape. So we'll just quickly plug in. This is, of course, to the microphone. This plugs in right here. And of course, the last step is we need to snap this part back into the dashboard. And if you recall earlier in the video, I showed how this part of the dashboard wasn't completely flat. So what I did overnight is I just C-clamped a block of wood. I'm trying to get that level look once again. So I'm just going to remove the C-clamp here. And that does look a lot better. I'll have to armor all that, but that does look a lot better. So we just go ahead and snap this back into the dashboard. And it's still a little raised, but it does look a lot better than it has been for actually probably around 2 years or so. And that's really about it. I'm just going to finish up presetting my radio stations, pairing my phone, and so forth. But again, hopefully this gives you guys a pretty good idea on the type of job that this is. It really is not that bad. Just make sure you get all of your components, your wire harness, your mounting before you do anything, and you'll be in good shape.